Hello, I'm CJ Phillip, and welcome to Dance and Bmore's Directors Table Talk. Directors Table Talk, ha, ha, what you wanna know, where you wanna go. Directors Table Talk, ha, ha, what you wanna know, where you wanna go. Player, Directors Table Talk, ha, ha, what you wanna know, where you wanna go. We've got a table of new and emerging theater directors, and we'll have them introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Kobe.
Hello, my name is Angel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Terrell.
Last episode, we had the chance to sit down with the artistic director of Baltimore Center Stage, Stevie Walker-Webb. I had so many questions, and we had a great talk. Let's take a listen.
How does those experiences and those mentorships influence you when you're creating new work?
My biggest writing mentor is earlier versions of myself.
Oh.
You know, like sometimes I write from a place of trying to save or heal a previous version of myself. As a 37-year-old man, I have tools that like 12-year-old Stevie didn't have growing up in like semi-rural poverty in the deep South, right? And so like I might go into a story and write from the perspective of this young man who wants so badly to get beyond the sticks of his hometown. I want so badly to be in a space where he can be accepted and loved, right? And so like I'll try to like write myself into a freedom, right? Or I'll try to go back in time in my own past and recover something that I felt like I didn't have or that was lost or that was taken from me. So much is owed to him. Like that kid didn't have, you know, he grew up below the poverty line in a like crime-ridden neighborhood. He had a lot of love, but he had a lot of questions and he had a lot of fear. But he was courageous, you know? And so like when I feel like I can't do whatever is required for me of a day, whether or not that's writing a script or standing in front of millionaires and pitching projects for Netflix or for a Broadway producer, I'm reminded of the journeys and the hurdles that 12-year-old Stevie, that 13-year-old Stevie, that 17-year-old Stevie who had never applied for FAFSA and how terrifying that was. I didn't even know what is FAFSA. How do I even apply to school? The things that he had to jump over were, given the tools that he didn't have, were so much more difficult than the things that I have to do on a day-to-day. I try to live in a way to like honor him, which in a way is me trying to think about the earlier versions of myself as a living ancestor. It's an extension of trying to honor my ancestors that are really gone, right? Because the reason why he was able to be who he was because they were able to be who they were. It's a real heady answer, but it's the truth.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. What about you, CJ? How was your table talk?
Well, I had the opportunity to sit down with Wendy Dann. She is a director, an educator, and an author. And I don't know her at all. And yet I was so glad that she invited me into the studio. She was working with a dear friend of mine, Eric Jordan Young, on his show about Sammy Davis Jr. And so it was such a pleasure to meet with her in New York City and actually see her at work in the studio, as well as talk to her. And we had so much in common. That's why I love these director table talks, because once you start having a conversation, you realize so many things, the challenges, the interesting takes that you have, someone else can relate to, and there's something you can learn from their story. So I'd love for you guys to take a look.
You have worked for years as a director and done such a wide variety of shows. But let's go back. Talk about what drew you to directing in the first place.
Sure. I really didn't go looking for directing. I think very few directors do. You sort of happen into it. I grew up as a dancer. So I was in dance class, 6 days a week, started ballet, tap, all of that.
Wow.
And so, and then I went into theater kind of late, probably when I was 16 or 17. A friend, you know how that happens. A friend is like, come with me. Part of the dance ensemble. And I fell in love with theater as a late teenager and decided really last minute to go to college for theater. So I got an undergraduate degree in theater and tried the acting thing for several years until it dawned on me that I wasn't actually interested in the run. Like once the show opened, I was kind of like, really? I have to do this for 4 weeks? Like I was way more interested in kind of the process.
Okay.
And I also felt like I wanted to know how everything was happening, like how the production was coming together. And because I grew up as a dancer, I was really interested in the use of space. And so it was an artistic director, Rachel Lampert, who I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with
that name
Rachel.
sounds really familiar.
She's the artistic director of the Kitchen Theater Company in Ithaca.
Okay.
She kind of took me under her wing as a mentor does, like a director choreographer who says, come over here. And she said, have you ever thought about directing? So she gave me sort of a new play as part of a new play festival to direct.
Mm-hmm.
And all the lights kind of went on. So I went back to get a master's degree in directing because I didn't have any experience in directing. So I thought, well, I need to learn that.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to teach at some point. And so I thought, well, if I want someday to end up teaching at the college level, this degree will help me do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what brought me to directing, was really knowing that theater was the thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't performance. I didn't want to be on stage.
Yeah.
I enjoyed crafting a performance with someone who was great at it,
Yeah.
rather than doing it myself. Like it was sort of a difficult discovery to realize, like, oh, I don't have the sort of raw talent or resources or vocal ability or imagination or risk taking or all those things that actors who are like my favorite people on the planet that they do. I was like, oh, that's not really me. But I felt like, oh, I can actually help someone else create that. And yeah.
Wow. There's so many things that you shared that are resonating with me. I started as a performer and I enjoyed performing for a time.
Yeah.
But like 8 shows a week, same show, same muscle group. I was like, me?
There's got to be more than this.
Right. And so again, stumbling, being a dancer originally, being asked to choreograph something and having to tell my friends, so just because someone's a dancer does not mean they're a choreographer.
Right. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah. And so in my mind, I wasn't a choreographer. So what's the story I'm going to tell? And that's how I approached choreography. Putting it together was like, all of a sudden, it was like an attic in your room that you never knew you had, with all these really cool trinkets and jewels in there. And you're like, oh, this is amazing. This is not me, right? This is not boring. I could do this.
Yeah, you want to have your hands in the clay, like making the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Wow, that was a really good conversation, Miss CJ.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what did you get out of the conversation between the two directors?
Well, me personally, I got out of it that it's okay to try things out, to really find your footing. And I feel like that's really important to like find out where you belong in artistic spaces, because they both had to be honest with themselves and be like, yeah, theater is great, but what part of theater do I want to be in? And I feel like there's something really powerful about being like, oh, this specific part isn't for me, but this is. So,
Yeah.
I also really loved how every director and every artist is different on how they learn. And her highlighting her background and CJ highlighting her background. And there are things that are similar, but there are things that are also different. And it really made me reflect as a young director myself and how I approach learning new things and how I'm approaching my addict of ideas when I'm putting shows together or when I'm writing things, even as a young writer. And so I really love the aspect of everyone learning different in the theater space. I love that.
Yeah, and I think the art of learning your own strength and pushing yourself to be able to give yourself that opportunity. Like how Miss CJ mentioned that she didn't see herself as a choreographer, but just a dancer. But she allowed herself to take that opportunity and to give her the room to maybe figure this out. And now she is a great choreographer.
Yes.
And even with the director, she gave herself that room to figure out what she did enjoy about theater, which was something completely different.
And the sense of community. I mean, even now, us here talking, connecting as young directors, and hearing CJ talk about how the other dancers were like, listen, we got your back. We know you can do this. That sense of community in theater is something that you can't really find other places. And so
It's
Directors
so
Table
important.
Talk is just another way of bringing that community together.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, we are going to call it a wrap, and we hope that you will join the conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So put your comments down below.
Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to see our next short.
And after 3 shorts, our 4th one is a full episode of Table Talks.
behind the scenes tips, and more. Send this short to your friends, and we'll see you at the next
Director's Table Talk.
Don't you wanna know where you wanna go? Director's Table Talk. Don't you wanna know where you wanna go? Director's Table Talk. What you wanna know where you wanna go? Director's Table Talk. What you wanna know where you wanna go? Director's Table Talk. What you wanna know where you wanna go? Director's Table Talk. 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 Director's Table Talk.
So what about you, CJ? How was your table talk?
Okay, just trying to think.
That came out of nowhere.
Maybe I should say, wait.
At first I thought it was like a bit, and like your nigga, I was like, oh.
Yeah, was
Maybe I
saying like
should
you
say,
was on
wait,
punishment.
didn't
I was like, oh, it was strong.
Okay, that was
where to...
Yeah,
Oh,
CJ.
yeah.
I jumped up, go CJ. All right.
Soften it up a little bit.